I still see the Space Wolf and Fenris arguments going around, so tell me if you have or have not forgotten about the Siege of Fenris. You know, the campaign that would see the Grey Knights and the Space Wolves have to liquidate the Fenrisian population. You know, like Armageddon. Basically, the Siege of Fenris was the Thousand Sons' next attempt to try and get payback and wipe out the Space Wolves. Not only would the Thousand Sons land the 9 silver towers upon Fenris, but their plans also had them trick the Space Wolves' allies of the Dark Angels, the Grey Knights, and several other Space Marine chapters into thinking that, yeah, no, they're freaks and mutants that deserve to be purged. They would do this by not only showing off that the Wulfen existed, but also having the Changeling, a demon of Tzeentch, infiltrate the Dark Angels and pretend to be one of their captains. Now, the Space Wolves were able to convince their allies that, no, we're not filthy mutants and heretics, as well as, managed to push the Thousand Sons off their world. After losing several planets in their system, and Fenris becoming heavily devastated. The aftermath of which is very consequential. Not only was Fenris heavily changed because of the war and all the psychic shenanigans that were going on, but the Grey Knights basically went up to the Space Wolves and said this. Yeah, hey buddy, we're gonna have to liquidate the population. Because that population saw Magnus the Red, who had intentionally shown himself off to them. So Logan Grimnar, with reluctance, had to agree to a liquidation campaign. Meaning that every person on Fenris that wasn't a Space Marine was killed. Later on, it will be revealed that the Space Wolves, in fact, do kidnap people from other planets, brainwash them with memories of Fenris, and then throw them into the wild and say good luck. Because this ain't the first time they had to do that. The Siege of Fenris was in the Warzone Fenris books. Wrath of Magnus and Curse of the Wulfen, respectively. Now, by the time of modern 40k, it appears that the Space Wolves have recovered from that. Though the Fenrisian system is still taking a long time to recover. Though the overall goal for the Thousand Sons for the Siege of Fenris was to get enough sacrifices to teleport the planet of sorcerers and the warp into the material realm right where Prospero is. But yeah, the Siege of Fenris be wild, huh? Gave the Space Wolves Wulfen units. So yeah, if someone's being annoying about the Space Wolves and their homeworld, just point to the Siege of Fenris. Still a fun read, and it explains a lot of the Space Wolves' actions in modern 40k. But it does feel like the ending is the Grey Knights and the Thousand Sons kinda taking an ironic victory lap.